What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Neil, Refracted Curvature, Matthew, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Yeah. Let's get it on.
Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon.
Right, hold fire on
Sunny
sharing
Friday.
the show as much as it really pains me to say it. We have had 3 computer crashes so far today, so I'm holding out very little confidence in this PC today, even though it did a really good job of keeping going while Matthew was on yesterday, which is surprising because absolutely nothing's changed and it's slightly cooler today. But there we go, such is life with this computer. Anyway, we're live now, so that's good. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge, that's a horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth.
It only exists in the globe model.
What model?
Can you turn your
Exactly.
mic down just a tiny bit, the gain, Arwin?
Oh, too loud?
Clip him. Well, you're just clipping the mic. It's not too loud, it's just clipping. Anyway. Any evidence that you can acquire a elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
Well,
No.
if you believe
There's
the
people
horizon,
willing to bet their jobs on it.
We'll come to that.
if you believe the horizon's refracted, you wouldn't be able to get an angle to a curve, let alone from a curve.
I tried to contact a few professors in Harvard, but all I got was voicemails.
It's not a line. No.
For the context, what's
Well,
the line?
I'm sure it's possible, just as the three-body problem would also have been resolved, of course, right?
No, it hasn't. Every time we get people here, they tell us how flat Earth must be. There's not even any apologetics for how flat it isn't in this regard. You know, it's just, well, it's flat and we'll make it flat at the centre of hell. That's as much as we've got so far. Okay, so I've just literally released this video. So this is a members-only video. I'm not going to play all of it because it's 15 minutes long, but we'll play the first couple of minutes. So just pop yourselves on mute for a second and I'll play out. So you've got context in regards to what Arwin just said.
Must be misunderstanding what you're asking.
I'll explain again. The GP ground position of the star will have 90 below it as detailed by Harold Jacobi. Do you understand, yes or no?
Yes.
At the ground position on this ball, it will not be 90 degrees anymore.
Why not?
Because it's curving. Curved lines don't meet 90s, do they, boy?
They do. Ask any geometry professor. Yes, that's my answer.
Yeah. Now I'm saying if I can get somebody to unequivocally demonstrate to you in a position of authority that understands this stuff, that no, you cannot acquire 90 from a curve, that you'll resign. You've said yes.
Yes, of course.
You think you can get 90 from a curve, or not to a curve, from a curve, just to be sure.
Okay.
At that point, yes.
Okay. So we just need to get somebody in authority to confirm to you that 90 degrees isn't possible, and you will resign.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Okay? We'll see how we get on, Matthew. And when we achieve it, I will expect your resignation. And if you don't give it, I will submit this to your superiors.
I'm confident enough in my understanding of mathematics to put my job on the line.
Okay, so there's your context. So the full unedited clip is on Flat Earth Debate 1907 Uncut and After Show. Matthew Learns Confessionals, I think is the title of it. Although I think I took the word uncut out because there was a balls up and I forgot to unpause the recording. So we missed half the live recording in the recording, but it was there in the live stream live. But either way, I'm pretty frazzled. So today I'm going to take part probably a lot less than I do normally, just because I can't even focus on anything. Yeah. Speech, yeah, that's going to be a struggle. If I sound pissed, drunk, then that's why. It's just lack of sleep. 3 or 4 hours sleep, 2 or 3, 4 nights running. Yeah, I'm just nearing the point of exhaustion. Thank God it's Friday. I normally don't mention the day, but in this instance, I'm going to mention the day because I know at any moment I'm going to glance down in this live stream land, and I'll be spending my weekend tuning a computer again. Anyway, right. So there you go. That's the context. Matthew Learns came here. I don't know if it was pride driving him to continue to the point where he was frazzled and ended up giving the confessions that he gave. I don't know if that was the case. I don't want to divine his motivation either. But ultimately, at the point that we're disseminating how you cannot do celestial navigation because there is a requirement for 90 degrees at the ground position, and on a sphere, there is no 90 to acquire at the ground position, as per his demonstrations. Now, with a little bit of weaseling aside, with him trying to repackage and recontextualize what he had specifically said is possible, after denying that 90 was even required if you're doing it on a sphere, he then went to Harold Jacobi's citation and even indeed provided his own from a professional celestial navigator that showed that you did need these 90s. So at that point, he's then got to argue that you can have the 90 and it can still be a ground position on a sphere. And it can't because it isn't 90 anymore. Well, at that point, he's then prepared to put his job on the line. That's how desperate he got. So it took a bit of while to clarify what he was saying. And if you listen back to the Uncut and After Show, you'll see exactly what I mean. Because there's a few little bits, and I hacked him out, where he tries to misrepresent what we've very specifically clarified upon looking at his diagram. So yeah, they all got hacked out, the little misdirections and weaselly, let's call it, so I don't swear, behaviour that Matthew exhibited. Anyway, that's going to be coming out for, well, it is out now actually for members. So if you're a member, you can check out the full 15-minute video, or if you want to, waste half an hour, you can listen to the convoluted gaggle screw of dodging and repositioning and generally being Weasley, with me swearing at him a lot and Adam getting very irate with him on account of the fact that he's trying to repackage stuff that he's clarified and put his job on the line for. So yeah, once that's all been hacked out, you end up with about 15 minutes of essentially us pointing out how celestial navigation works, him denying you need a 90 only to confirm that you do, and then being the awkward position where that 90 does not work on a sphere anymore, and then him putting his job on the line for it. That would be a curved 90. There you go. Check it out if you remember.
Well, how did they go from celestial navigation to trying do trigonometry? And it seems like it happens all the time.
I'll tell you exactly how.
You will have to shout out Jardo. Shout out to Jardo. A great week for our flat Earth. I don't know about that, man. I feel absolutely pooped. Let's just rewind it on the live stream so you can see it. Sorry, start again. A great week for our flat Earth. Absolutely, I totally agree. We had both Matthew and Brenda admit that the Earth is flat and measured that way. Brenda's a nobody. So, I mean, yeah, maybe that's the case, and wonderful, but yeah, Matthew teaches in a university. They're not really comparable. But, I mean, fair enough, you take what you get, and in this instance, that's definitely a win. And I do regard Matthew as a win, but a small win in a horrendous week for me. So, yeah, smash the PayPal link if you want to support this channel, and me. But really appreciate the support. Like I say, Jardo, thank you so much for the super chat. Okay, John, sorry about that long little interlude. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, when I asked Matthew if he believed the plane was spinning and the celestial sphere was constant, he said no. But when I said, you don't believe the tangent plane is turning and the celestial sphere is fixed, he changed his position. So he's still thinking he has a tangent point somewhere in ambiguity of, I don't know how he's still thinking this if he's been in this subject for as long as he has.
You never know. He might offer it up as a defence. And we'll be asking him like we asked Rufy. How's that geometric horizon working out for you? So we're going to look at it through a sextant. At the horizon, we see the apparent, redundant, horizon. And that would be the geometric horizon that we're looking at there, is it? No, definitely not. We'll get that when we get there, though, eh? For the meantime,
But
he thinks he can get 90 from a curved adjacent. So we're going to show him how wrong he is, and maybe in his defence, when we show him how wrong he is, he'll turn around and say he's getting 90 degrees from a tangent point at a geometric horizon that was debunked in 2020 by the Black Swan. Ladies and gentlemen, it's only been 3 years.
But even the logic that would allow them to walk down that path starts with them having their eye level meet sea level or surface level.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. You're saying before they assert that geometric tangent point horizon that was debunked in 2020, they've got to get around the fact that to assert it in this instance, with the geometry in place, like on screen now with Al-Biruni, you've got the line from the base at the bottom of H where it meets the sphere, and this line versus the eye level line. Well, that's the differential between two flat planes that they're going to extrapolate out to then assert that they've got a geometric horizon. In this diagram, it would be at C, although it's backwards. I don't know why that's ended up mirrored. But anyway, they'd have to assert that they've got that point below surface level and not refracted on no Atmo day. It's going to be a gaggle screw no matter what which way he jumps and dives.
I just, like, it's hard, like Adam was saying, it is hard to take the position that he's just not being insincere when he says such things. It's hard to believe that anyone could state such obvious contradictions, admit their contradictions, but still state them.
Yeah, you're going to his mental state. I mean, you can describe it with cognitive dissonance. There you go, 2 words, done. That's what it is. But who cares? You can only show what he is and what he does and what he says and how he contradicts himself. You know, the case in point that will be the defining moment for him was that's not a fallacy, that's a logical fallacy. If I beg the question of my outcome and then give an example that doesn't tie into my assumption, but don't conclude it, it's not begging the question. Just idiotic. You know, a really base level of fallacy. You know, begging the question's pretty down there. It's like, it's not a complex fallacy, is it?
Well, I kind of understood what he meant when he was giving that video about it.
Oh, well, you understood when he made the video based on what he said and what he told me when he was here. If I don't state the conclusion explicitly, it's not begging the question. That's his position. What did I say at the time? It was pathetic.
His position was that's not a proof that the Earth is a sphere, calculating its radius. That was his position.
In other words, his response is to offer up our response back at us. So we would point out that's not proving Earth is a sphere. And we could also add to get a radius from. But he's saying, well, I'm not going to use this as a proof of a sphere. How the hell are you getting a radius from it if it's not proven to be a sphere that you're measuring a radius from? Well, it is no matter what happens because it's assumed in the first suppositional statement that isn't proven. It's assumed. That's where the begging the question starts when you assume your outcome at the beginning. If Earth's a sphere, right, that's all you got to say, and I can say stop. You're begging the question. With orbits, I can just say begging the question the moment they say the word. As soon as you say orbit, straight off the bat, orbit is just the word itself a begging the question fallacy. You don't need any statement around the word orbit at all for it to be a begging the question fallacy. But Matthew thinks it's a formal logical fallacy. No, begging the question is not a formal logical. I tried to explain this to him when he was here. He didn't get it. He's thick. Too stupid to get it.
That's possible.
Yeah, fallacies aren't easy. I'm lucky because I went for a period in my education to a very, very expensive private school. And the way they taught you logic was very different to how they taught me it, or didn't at all, in the normal schools that I went to. Well, for that period, it cemented a certain way of thinking in my mind in that private school. Now, I didn't know that nobody else had that when I left that school because it shut down and went into a different school, a normal high school. Right. But that methodology of logic, reinforced by the fact my dad was a programmer, and just all he dealt with was logic, was something that once you've got it, you can easily understand various different aspects of fallacy or logical inference. Same, flip side of the same coin, right? Anyway, if you haven't, then you'll struggle to understand it. Instead of understanding how the fallacy breaks down, you'll make up how it doesn't imply a fallacy. So if you're assuming your outcome of a sphere Earth in this instance, but you don't realize that that is at face value, straight off the bat, a logical fallacy, then in your mind, starting with the premise is perfectly acceptable, because in his mind, that's why he keeps justifying it, Arwin, when you're asking about his feelings. In his mind, it is just a sphere. And no matter what gets described about its measurement, the geometry, navigation, building, surveying, how it looks, any of it is irrelevant, because it is automatically assumed, that's begging the question, to be a sphere by him. So there's no fallacy in his mind when he starts, well, it is just a sphere when we start. When he asked me, well, is there any other way to measure a radius if I don't automatically beg the question of it being a sphere Earth? And I'm like, that's a you problem. But in his mind, it's like, well, how am I supposed to do this unless I know instinctually it's automatically a sphere? It's like, what? Unless you beg the question, you don't know where to go with this claim to be proofsy of being on a sphere. You don't know where to go unless you employ the fallacy. That's the point. His response, where we started this discussion and this ramble, right, is him to throw back at us, well, when I use that Aristophanes example, it doesn't prove a sphere. You're like, what? Like we say? Yeah, no shit. Excuse me, I tried so hard not to swear.
Well, maybe he thinks it's a secret. It's just like, yeah, somebody will have to know how to do it. Otherwise, everything is based on a line that would make no sense. So we just don't know it. He doesn't know it, but he trusts somebody knows how to do that. And that would mean that he hasn't looked too deeply into it to basically be faced with those things, just like the three-body problem, and that it can't be solved. So he's kind of ignorant about the bigger mathematical issues out there.
Or
He's
or
not that well studied.
One sec, John. Shout
He
out to
can't be.
Godzilla. Shout out to Godzilla. He says, echoing my sentiment, thank you. I'm glad you're saying it. There's only so much you can push the lines of e-begging, Godzilla. So I really appreciate this super chat. I'm not even joking. It says, long week, brain done. No joke to add this super chat. So here, have some money. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate you. My call to action worked. Thanks, Godzilla. Go ahead, John.
Well, what I was going to say is, in Matthew's mind, or not in his mind, but could be, that he thinks he's relying on a different proof that the Earth is a sphere. And this is what he's doing now, is just calculating the thing he's already proven to be a sphere. That is the way I took what he said.
Yeah.
He didn't really understand what a
Yeah.
presupposition entails.
But without presenting that proof, it stands alone, as it does as an example offered up to the kiddies that I object and suggest he should be fired for misleading and only presenting half the evidence in that respect, that it could be measured on a flat plane, as he disseminated on his crappy little channel, reaching no one. But in his mind, he doesn't have to present that at the start to prove that his premise isn't begging the question, because, like I said, it's automatically, he's just stood on a sphere. So it doesn't matter. Oh, right. It's like when the fundies come here and they don't have any way of articulating it at all. He does. He's got ways of do-si-doing around getting the height of the star and various other stupid nonsense that he's going to take us around the Wrekin with. But in his mind, well, all that's doing is pointing out that there's got to be some inconsistencies, or for him, there's got to be some calculations in it. So we have to assume some premises, and that one's going to be a sphere one for me, because it is a sphere that we're standing on. So even if this fails and doesn't work, in his mind, does that alter that we're still stood on a sphere? Of course not, we are. It's so far beyond the realms of comprehension for him that even when he, in his own words, on his own camera, disseminates how it's a fallacy, He can't wrap his head around the fact that he's just going to go and use that fallacy immediately thereafter, literally in the next breath, because it isn't a fallacy to him. Because, well, it's not an assumption to say we're starting on a sphere. We are starting on a sphere. It's like, listen again. It's not assumption to start my process by saying we're on a sphere. That's not an assumption because we are standing on a sphere. Like, yeah, that's saying the same exact thing, but then changing that it's not a fallacy by repeating it. It's so crazy what having a sphere earth religion without appreciating that it is a religion will do for you. And that's the prime example. You can't speak to his motive. You can't ask about his feelings. He's nonchalant about it because it's like, I don't care. You're all idiot flat earthers. Doesn't matter what you say. It's still going to be a sphere at the end of it. I'm still going to, let's paraphrase, beg the question it's a sphere at the end of it. But the beg the question it's a sphere, even though he's disseminated exactly what that is, doesn't cross his mind. It's just, it's still a sphere I'm stood on. Not, I'm still going to beg the question.
Because he's convinced that it's already been proven, even though he wasn't able to deliver that proof himself. But he's so convinced he's willing to bet his job on it.
Oh, these two are cheering me up so much. They're just giving me money and saying hello to each other with super chats. Thank you so much. What I need to cheer me up going into the weekend. If the computer survives this live show, I won't mess around with it. But if it crashes halfway through, I'll be kept going by those super chats, lads. Thank you. Go ahead, Darwin. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Oh, yeah, I was saying he was just so convinced. He even said that. He was so convinced that there is proof that the Earth is a globe that he said it's okay to presuppose, even though he wasn't personally able to deliver what that proof would be.
When I spoke to him in the after show and last night, and he basically said to me, he admitted to me that there's no evidence of a globe Earth and no way to measure it in physical reality, and he openly admitted that he's in a belief system. So, I mean, that's what he said to me in the after show. George was there to witness it. So,
but what about his job?
Yeah, I've heard that already.
But
I've heard that before. It's not the first time he said it.
Put his job on the line on something that he knows he can't prove?
1 sec. Sorry, Owen. I didn't quite fully absorb that. I'm going to shout out Blue Ridge Ranger, and then hopefully you can paraphrase that in a way that that sinks into my frazzled brain one deck. Shout out to you, Blue Ridge Ranger. Again, really appreciate the support. Shout out to my bud, Skeptic and Godzilla. I got paid today, so you do too. Oh, thank you. Really appreciate the support. Thanks for the super chat, Blue Ridge Ranger, and everyone else who's smashing the super chat.
Good morning, guys.
Morning, chocolate. Okay, one deck. Just go through that again.
In the after show, we was having a bit of to and fro, me and Matthew, and he basically at the end of it admitted to me that yes, he agrees there's no way to prove that he lives on a sphere. There's no evidence to support drop over distance of a circumference or a radius. And I said, well, you're living in a belief system then? He said yes, and I'm happy with that.
Well, I stand corrected, Darwin. So immediately after saying you're not going to be able to divine his motivation and figure out why he's believing what he believes, instantly, the moment it's crossed my lips, I'm contradicted by his own words, admittedly, according to one deck, who I trust, just for the record. So there you go, Owen. You asked. Hold on. Owen, you got your answer, right?
Right. So he is just a blind fanatic that's literally gambling his livelihood based on
his faith,
a hunch based on a belief.
On his
Pretty
faith.
crazy.
He's gambling his livelihood against his faith. That's correct. That is nuts. I wish you'd had that recorded, but like I say, I'll take your word for it. And it's good as a discussion point here. We can't take it more red than that, But Skeptic936 also, thank you again for the super chat. Hey, Blue Ridge, good to see you, brother. People helping me out with cash. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the super chat.
Well, I can back up what one deck is saying, because if you go back to a few episodes, the first time we addressed Matthew on this show, I told you guys I had run into Matthew already on 24/7, and I said it. He's the type that will concede almost every argument, but at the end will tell you, I just believe it. I told you guys that shit a while ago. Like he will concede. He'll go back and forth. but he'll end up conceding, and then after the concession, we'll say, "But I still believe we live on a magical spinning water ball."
So basically,
That's
he's
just his thing.
sorry. So basically, he's just a slightly smarter Mark Taylor. Really. Remember how he used to do that too?
I don't remember Mark Taylor ever conceding anything. I don't know.
That's like way in the beginning of FED. But he would do that. He would, when pressed, eventually admit, no, I just believe it. I don't know. I just really believe it.
But did you just say Mark Taylor?
Yeah.
Sounds more like Dawn
He
Troy.
left a comment on one of the videos. That's weird because he hasn't left a comment in bloody ages. And then on the live show, obviously the Matthew Weathers / Learns live show from yesterday, he left a comment. Do you want to hear it?
Huh.
Sure.
Well, maybe they know each other.
Just as it
But
came
they're
up.
kind of riding on the same belief. So
Going to be some swearing. How many minutes are we into this show? I'm sure I'll be all right. Let's just see if I can find it.
I'm also wondering if Matthew and Ruith have got something going together, because can't do it. I'm just driving at the moment, but Ruith messaged me this morning saying, questioning me on. I mentioned drop over distance and proof of drop over distance, and he started waffling on about this, and he said, I listened to the show yesterday because I knew Matthew was on there, and I heard you comment on drop over distance, and there is a way to do this. And sent me some bloody information and documentation. He said he sent it to Adam Meakin as well. I've not had a proper read through because I've been busy, but it wouldn't surprise me if them two are talking to each other. And Matthew's getting some information off Ruhith.
You want to hear it?
I'll send you the info when I'm not driving. I'll put it in
Yes,
chat.
please.
I'll tell you when.
I've lost it now. God damn. There we go. I wonder why you had to lie about what Matthew said. I'm glad your show's dying.
He's been saying that for like 7 years.
Oh, I put a reply. My response, I don't remember typing this out. I said, timestamp please, his response. The title of the video. What was the title of the video that he was responding on? FED 1907 live. Matthew learns confessional. Earth is measured flat. It is. That's what he detailed.
He said that.
That's what he said.
Tweaks
He
knew
said that.
that.
you got a big super chat, by the way.
Oh, wow. FE Patriot, thank you very much for the super chat. Wowza. Just a little token of my appreciation. Breath of fresh air. Very much for the super chat. Wow. $110. Wow. Thank you so much.
What it kind of sounds like is this you going against this mathematician sounds to be pretty devastating, being that this so-called mathematician has made all these concessions, and it sounds like it's making the rounds, which is why people like Mark Taylor are popping up with comments and stuff all of a sudden after 11 years. So it's like, is this bad for you guys that this mathematician came here and confessed all your nonsense?
Oh, he needed to share his pain in the comments and say I was lying. No
Yeah.
lies. The surface of the earth is flat. End quote. Matthew learns. That's what he said. That's a quote, verbatim. Very carefully phrased, so it was verbatim. The surface of the earth is flat. End quote. Matthew Weathers / Matthew Learns. Another shout out to Godzilla, who also just did a high blue out of the blue on a super chat. Thank you. Really, really appreciate all these super chats so much. I am definitely starting to sound drunk though. Show's still going though. Yay. Okay.
Was it sleep deprivation, Nathan?
Yeah, I went to bed at 3 and then got up at the usual time with the kids and then started editing. I did really want to get those videos done. I can't remember if I've plugged them on this live show now, given that I've done 3 or 4 shows that have all failed, like crashed. But I've been starting earlier and earlier in terms of doing the live shows now, so I start a couple of hours before it goes live, so that I can keep the show going. Like, I've got to come up with a word for this, where it's connected to YouTube, broadcasting to YouTube. I just haven't pressed go in the tab on YouTube Studio. So it is as live and broadcasting, but it just isn't actually going out to the audience yet. Well, I now run the show for about half an hour to an hour before the live show actually starts and before the pre-show starts, yeah, to make sure that the computer's not going to fall over. And today, fortunately, before I got to 2 o'clock, it did. It fell over 2 or 3 times. And then by the time I got to 2:10, it was working. I'm like, well, now I'm going to have to reschedule till 2:30. It's, you know, I'm already 10 minutes late. I might as well have a pre-show in this recording. So I have. Another shout out to Skeptic936, who says Pablo's dog is in the house. He is. Says, hey, Skep. Thank you for the super chat. Giving me money to say hello to people. Man, the support in Flat Earth is absolutely overwhelming sometimes. You know, I've said it once already, but it's moments like this when you get. I do a little bit of e-begging appeal subtly in end, and then people are like, "Yeah, I'll give you money." Yeah, clearly you're moaning that you're poor, and then they just say hello to each other with super chats. You're like, "Oh man, this is such a nice community. It makes it all worthwhile." And it did yesterday, even though the same settings crashed today. Right, for whatever reason, the settings that I got to held it together for the entirety of that Matthew Weathers show, and I don't know if anybody's going to agree with me. I said it at the time, and I'm still having had 5 hours sleep on it, or however much sleep. I think that was the best show to date.
Well, yeah, it was at least
One
like
of
it
them.
was like at the new tip of the spear. It's like the new ground. It went very far, and you were performing excellent, and there was very little rumpusing. So yeah, I have to agree. It was really one of the best shows for now, for this period.
I agree.
I'm sure it's going to get even better eventually.
Other shows had
Well, it was great.
moments where we win, moments where we've got the opponent to get to the concessional point where they inevitably will not concede anyway. But your logical inference is there enough for the audience to get it and have it trimmed into a video, or it mean that there's a moment in a live show where, wow, that's a point where the fundy really you had him over and there's a build up to it. That show wasn't like that. The entire show was still a debate with one person thinking they're on a ball, but every discussion point, every topic, every rebuttal pointed the audience to Earth needing to be flat in order to perform any of the processes that were being done. Now, it's not like the other shows weren't good. A lot of them had a lot of edgier seat tension. But that show had that in spades, together with the opponent continually proving a flat Earth. I think that was a special show. It was.
Yeah, it's
that was, one last point. I know I'll have to pause. One last point. The point is that while I am knackered and moaning about endless days of hardly any sleep and then getting straight up and getting straight onto the same exact thing in the boiling hot sun in the middle of my, closed off, very hot studio, right? It's worth it staying up till 3 a.m. to fiddle with the computer because it still functioned during that show. It's like, why are you spending 8 months pissing around with this computer? So that the one day that you want it and you must not fall over while that's going on, it didn't. So like, even though with the exact same settings, it fell over 3 times today, doesn't matter. The messing around and the effort put in for all those evenings was worth it because it didn't crash during that show. So for me, it was all worth it, even though it still crashed with the same settings. As stupid as that sounds. Anyway, go ahead. I know you cut you all off. I just wanted to get that bit in to say it was all worth it, and people are now financially rewarding me for it, and I'm so grateful to them for that.
Right. Well, I was just going to say it just seems like the next level, and it kind of started with the other guy, McKeegan, who really started this like confession style arguments. It's really crazy, and this guy also is doing that, even worse, I guess, almost like to what seems like an autistic level, kind of. And this is a new thing. This is the new level. These are the new anti-flat earthers.
That's
really
a good term.
deeply
You can coin that. You can have that.
faith.
That's an Arwinism. It's confessional debating. So for every time they've positioned themselves in the globe affirmative, they're offering you up a flat earth in their argumentation. It's confessional debating. It's
And that's
nuts.
why it's probably so devastating for people like Mark Taylor, who have been saying, "Oh, your show's dying," for like 7 years, 6 years, whatever it is. Because back then, did they think that we were going to be around at this point with people on their side coming and telling us all about how it's flat? No, they weren't expecting that. They didn't think that was going to happen. Damn, I got to mute. Give me a sec.
Well, on the one hand, no, Mark's wrong. It's not, the show's not dying. It's still growing. It's growing at the slowest rate it's ever grown when I'm at my largest, which is contrary to how you'd think it would work. But without me moaning about algorithms and such like, no, that is number one incorrect. The show is growing, and therefore has never been bigger if you want to look at it from that perspective. But the slowdown in growth hasn't altered what I've just literally got so joyful about and what brings such a smile to my face about the community. You can look at it that, well, so struggling with my words. Comparatively to the amount of subscribers, this show should have probably a greater live audience than it currently has. 85 people when it's had 300 people with half the subscriber base, right, is a testament to who the show's being put out to. But literally, as I'm disseminating this, the people in the community also see that. And what goes by on the screen now, and I'll shout them out in a minute, thanks Vlad, thanks Hillside, is what I get. So the people respond to the fact that we're being suppressed, what Mark Taylor describes as your show dying. No, we're being censored into oblivion. But what's the result of the people in my community? And I'm saying that specifically, my community. What's this? This is the result. It's on screen right now. Yeah? People supporting me more. So it's like, okay, well, you're getting your shows put in front of less and less people each day. Yeah, I am. That's right. Now, the numbers are still growing by a really small amount, and I have to constantly ask people to share the show. Please share the show, by the way. But the support I get increases every time they try and put the kibosh on us. There it is on screen now. I'm not lying. There it is. Yeah, you can see it for yourself. Now, if anybody can show me a community, I hate to use this word, but it is the right word, that's got this much love for what the videographer does, I challenge anybody to show me a community with that. Next to something that's medical and directly connected to somebody personal, perhaps dying, that's probably the only thing you'd get that kind of comparison for, in my opinion. I mean, correct me if you think I'm wrong and you can show an example.
Not just your opinion, Nathan. I don't put out shows and I needed help and they rallied behind me. Chocolate, it is a community. I hated to say it too, but I can't deny it now. It's awesome.
Right, you have to excuse somebody's car alarms going off right outside my window. Wonderful. Can you hear that? Hopefully not. Anyway,
Negative.
I'll read out these super chats. Shout out. Oh, stop now. Good. Shout out to Vlad on Flat Earth. I promise I'm not drunk. Right. Shout out to my Discord gang and hope you get some good rest soon, Nathan. Cheers to all and hope everyone has a great weekend. I will. If we get to the end of the hour, which is what, another 25 minutes or so, maybe a bit longer, and this computer keeps going, it means that I don't have to faff with it. You know, the faffing I did because I started an hour early has meant that I've effectively tested it by having the show. So I will have a good weekend if this show continues all the way through till the end of the live show. Thanks for the super chat. Really appreciate it, Vlad. Thank you so much. Also, Hillside.
Let Adam in.
Thanks, Neil. Shout out to Hillside. Imagine triangles having straight lines. Crazy. Great job, Nathan. Love the show. Thanks for the super chats.
Nathan, sorry to just jump in. B for a Buzz has just posted that Ruhif stuff in Skype. If you wanted to look at it, like it's there.
Yeah, I'll bring it up. Can somebody narrate it though? That's not me. Yes, we're all super keen to read this. Oh, that's good. What with me being so frazzled?
Okay, I'll read it.
Right. Yeah, I'll happily nominate you, Arwin.
All right, but there's like a lot of it though. So you want to just start with the first message? I take it. One deck. Right.
Sorry,
so Ruif said.
Sorry, Arwin. Just one sec. We're starting after the Flat Earth Math one, right? That's the first grey one from. Yeah, am I on the right page?
What?
I'm starting with the message after Flat Earth Maths message. It's the first grey one. Is that the one we're starting with? And can you turn your mic down a little bit more because I'm still getting feedback from you? I'm going to go with yes. Go ahead,
Sorry,
Alan.
guys.
Go ahead.
I can't talk. Sorry.
I see 4 boxes in Skype. Is it the first one?
Before we get into Matthew learned stuff, hyphen. You want that one? Slit.
Right, yeah, that's the first box.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, so Ruhif says there, oh, just for your information, here's what I sent to Adam Meakin. Before we get into Matthew learn stuff, yes, the horizon is refracted. You'll struggle to correct angles from it then. No, refraction is incorporated into the dip correction tables. Maybe you guys should look into it. And is that it? Or the Matthew learn stuff? Because that comes after.
Keep going.
Okay. You guys claim, you guys claim it is a
Wait a
right
moment.
angle triangle between the observer, the GP, and the star. This is incorrect. I will attach a diagram of the geometry once again. 2. If it was a right angle triangle and you had an adjacent length and the elevation angle, then you would be able to calculate the height of the star by simple trigonometry. The reason you won't find any citation that cares about the height of the star is because it's not a right angle triangle. Okay. The geometry of the celestial navigation only works with a globe and distant stars. Okie dokie.
What are you
3.
talking about?
If
Oh.
it was... Oh, stop.
Well, we'll find out from one deck. I heard him also ejaculate in the middle of you reading it out, so maybe he had something to add.
That was me. That was me, Nathan. I said something.
Bloody hell,
after
Brian!
The dip correction thing.
How many times?
Well, real life is up to just
What?
contradicting himself right there.
Sorry, go ahead.
Anyway,
I was
just with that.
I was rumpusing you from my humorous effect. Start again, Brian. Go ahead.
No, that was me about the dip correction thing. Before Aaron goes on, the dip correction thing he's talking about. There is refraction calculations added to the dip correction, but that's celestial refraction, not 7/6R, and that's only these days. And they're only added in where they're needed, which would be when the celestial body is heading close to the horizon from our peripheral or whatever, or from our perceptual view. So they are added in, but they weren't always added in. And it's not 7/6R. It's not globe refraction. It's celestial refraction. So the fact that the star appears to be higher than they would expect it to be, that, below 20 degrees, that's what's added. Not what he thinks, not what he's trying to promote. That is not what is added. There's no 7/6R or anything over 6R added to those dip corrections.
Correct.
And
just before you do that,
will you be able to
just one quick plug. So in reference to that, it'll come out this weekend. If you're not a member, it's already available if you are. Rubber Ducky Life Preserver argument. So Rubber Ducky Glurf is a video that's about 8 minutes long. Took me about 4 hours to edit. But that video is coming out over the weekend. You've probably already seen it if you remember. And it goes through the argument that Brian has just disseminated in regards to where's the 7/6R, where's the refracted horizon. When you disseminate that in the Rubber Ducky Glurf argument with QE or alongside QE. I did actually edit a lot of you out, actually, Brian, but there we go. We won't mention that.
No worries. But just to continue on, because this is important for the audience to hear. For them to add what they are calling refraction, which would be 7/6 and greater than 7/6R, they would have to know the actual distance to the claimed refracted horizon. So all they could have is use the height of the observer's eye above the water, and then calculate for what that distance would mean if you're on a globe. But that would be the geometric horizon. Whereas they have a consistently refracted horizon, which is consistently refracted at all different rates right? Because this is what they have to tell us. Like, you know, it's like, oh, it's 100 over 6 hours today. It's 2,000 over 6 hours today. You know, there's never a consistency because the horizon is not a physical location, so it moves further from you and closer to you all the time because it's an optical phenomenon. But for them to be able to add in what they're claiming to be refraction into the dip corrections, then they'd have to know the distance to the horizon, the refracted horizon, which they don't know because it's impossible. It would be, even within their own paradigm, it would be impossible to know. All you could know is the distance to, let's just say, as per observer's height. All they could talk about was how far away their geometric horizon would be in accordance with the observer's height. But that won't give them the distance to the real horizon.
A quick shout out to Godzilla37, who gives me money saying hello to people again, says, hi, Mike. Thank you for the super chat, Godzilla. Really appreciate the support. Also, Shatner's Bassoon says, up the FED. Sorry, Brian. I know you weren't quite finished. I realised after you...
No, I'm not. No, because this is important. This is absolutely bone crushing for them. This is a point I tried to make to them in the past. To know what refraction would need to be added to the dip correction within the paradigm they're claiming, they would have to know the distance to their refracted horizon. How do you find out the distance to the horizon when you're at sea? There is no demarcation points. You just have an horizon. It could be 5 miles, it could be 15 miles, it could be 100 miles away from you. You just don't have a clue. So what not only is what Ruhif's saying completely wrong, but the refraction he's talking about is celestial refraction, which has nothing to do with the globe. It's got to do with the celestial body appearing higher above the horizon below 20 degrees. That these days is added in the dip correction. Well, what he's talking about, even within his own paradigm, wouldn't work because you would never know the distance to their refracted horizon. So, yeah, they could claim, well, because we're this height above the water, that means that our geometric horizon is whatever, 10 miles away. Right. But their geometric horizon is not what they're calculating for. He's saying that they're calculating for a refracted horizon, if he's claiming that, which would mean, which would be over 6 hours of some derivative of. How do you know how far away the horizon is at sea? You don't. You can never know. It's a place. You don't know how far away it is. You never do, unless you have a demarcation point that you can say it's beyond that point. Like the 9.41 mile Hill House, I think it is, platform. We know it's beyond that. So we could say easily 10 miles to that horizon. But you need a demarcation point. They don't have that. You don't have that at sea. You have nothing. You don't even have to go far from land before you can see no land. It's just water and horizon all around you, 360 degrees. So no, that destroys them. On top of that, Ruhif said, we don't need any distance to the stars. And there's nobody claims any distance to the stars because it's not needed. Then he says, you can't do it without being on a globe and really far away stars.
Yeah, they all do that. Matthew Learns did that also. I had on screen their geometric position at a demarcation on the diagram labelled as ground position because it's in reference to what we discussed with John earlier before you got here, Brian, which was the differential between eye level and sea level. Now, they have that marked as a dip, non-refracted with straight lines on the diagram I had it while you were talking. I just wanted to drop it in because when we're talking about refraction, again, we talked about this before you got here. That balls up the diagram from Matthew and anybody else who's claiming corrections for angles. Because we're not talking about bent lines, again, with angles. You know, we've got Matthew over a barrel in regards to this bent line, the bent adjacent that won't give him 90 at the base of the star, as cited by Harold Jacobi and anybody else who's doing celestial navigation. You don't have 90 on the surface. But they also want to bend all these lines, don't they? And get around that little problem. So like, how many bent lines do you need when you're doing angle corrections? Is it not enough to just have a bent surface that won't give you a baseline? I mean, Matthew's put his job on the line for it. But meanwhile, the rest of the numpties want to bend everything else, don't they?
Well, Nathan, are they out at sea with, let's just say, temperature measuring devices and air pressure measuring devices and all this to try and work out how much over 6 hours they need to add to their geometric horizon calculation to find out an approximation of how far away the horizon is. No. Every one of our diagrams shows a geometric horizon and this dip thing from a geometric horizon, which is completely wrong. That's not the dip correction at all. But that's what they keep thinking it is. But their horizon's not geometric. It's constantly refracted, which means, so where is it then? What is your correction going to be? Real way of saying all the refraction corrections are added into the dip correction, right? So let's just say you're 20 foot above the water, right? And their dip correction is what? What's added in? You don't know, but just because you're 20 foot above the water doesn't mean you're going to know. The dip correction in the almanac is going to know how much refracted horizon there is that day, where the refracted horizon is. Do you understand? I don't know if you're fully. I know you're tired, so I don't know if you're fully getting this.
Yeah, but they do fix that issue very easily by just using a flat plane in the measurements and then afterward bending it into the ball model in which they're all curved lines.
No, not for this they can't. For what Ruhif is claiming, you would have to know how far away their refractive horizon is. But we never know how far away the horizon is. It's always moving, and it can move within 10 minutes.
Nobody's expecting to see the geometric horizon. The geometric horizon only exists in the maths. Nobody's expecting to see physical geometry. These are all quotes from the numpties. Sorry to talk through you, Brian. Skeptic936, shout out to Neil, my representative on the FED panel. Thank you for the super chat, Skeptic936. Really appreciate all these super chats.
Right, they only use the horizon they can't see, Brian. The one in the model.
Yeah, but in this instance, they can't, Arwen. That's the problem. All they can do, the only one they can use is to try and equivocate between height of eye and what that would mean on a globe.
That's the main point.
That's to a geometric position.
Let's reiterate that. What we're talking about isn't this numpty glurf reinstated of a curved straight line that's going to have angle corrections already incorporated into it. So what your straight line's already got the bent line incorporated into it. That's their position. Okay, no. What we're actually dealing with is height of eye correction. Again, I'm going to plug my own video. Rubber Ducky Glurf. Shout out to you, Quantum Racer. That was epic. That'll come out over the weekend if you're a member of the public. It's already available to the members on Nathan Oakley 1980 channel. But that disseminates everything that Brian's gone through in its entirety and points the glurf, globe believer, whatever you want to call them, in the direction that Brian's also detailing, which is to say you're going to need a geometric horizon in your model to start making these assertions. Not what we look at, as Arwin's just pointed out. This is the main point. What we're actually doing is height of eye. Right, Brian?
Yes, it is height of eye, but I think my point is being slightly lost, Nathan. I could give them the geometric horizon and still disprove their claims, Ruhif's claims, in a moment.
Because, have a go, Brian.
Yeah, can you have a go at him? If you were listening in.
Yeah, because obviously, if we've got a height of eye and we're going to use the horizon, then it is a height of eye correction, and the horizon will stay exactly where it is because the only adjustment we're doing is the known height above the surface. So the horizon will render where it is. In a ball world, the horizon will render at different places based upon the 7/6 or what the rate of refraction is that day. So what Brian's saying is it's an impossibility and certainly another proof that the dip correction is nothing more than height of eye to a fixed and never moving, and certainly not a geometric horizon, because it can't be geometric. Now, if the horizon is always moving, then the only way you figure out how much refraction you have today is to place and actually have a refracted but still geometric distance to the horizon. From that, you could then work out how much refraction you've had today and how much you have to move everything. And that's, again, it's an Orwellian paradox, but it's just presented with more detail and just attacking them more. Because, like I say, if you want to use that horizon and you know it's in a different place than yesterday and your boat's still the same height, then the only variable factor is the rate of refraction. After the rate of refraction, you have got to know exactly where that horizon renders for you to be able to know the rate of refraction to then use it in the rest of your calculations if you were pretending to use it. Did that help, Brian?
Yep.
Yeah,
That's exactly it.
That's
I mean,
on the right
Just let
track.
Brian respond. Go ahead.
That's on the right track, Adam, because the thing of it is, in reality, it makes no difference to the navigator how far away the horizon is or how close it is. It makes no difference because they're only adjusting for the height of eye to create the 90 at both the sailor's position and the GP of the celestial body. So you're creating two 90s with the correction, the height of eye correction. But what Ruhif is claiming would mean that at every time somebody would stand there with a sextant, they'd have to know the distance to the horizon. That's a refracted position that they don't know how far away it is. They just know it's not the distance it would be in its geometric form. So that's all they know. So they'd have no idea how far away that horizon is, right? Or how much it's refracted. So consequently, how could those claimed, not refraction, but those claimed over 6 hour refractive calculations be added to the dip correction when you'd have to actually know how far away the horizon is from the boat at that very time? Because within an hour, the horizon can be closer to you or further from you. I've seen it myself, literally. Within an hour, the horizon ended up way past this thing it was in front of only an hour previous due to the weather changing. You'd never know how far away the horizon is. So to do what he's saying is like that there's magic in the added to the dip corrections. That's literally what he's saying. That the dip corrections, the almanac is somehow sentient and knows how far away their refracted horizon is at any time it needs to know. But that would mean that if you're 20 foot above the water, and that's it, you're correcting for a 20 foot eye height above the water, right, within their paradigm, that would mean that the correction that he's claiming is added in, the over 6 hour correction that he's claiming is added in, would have to change depending on the weather. So the almanac would have to actually change the number. Like you open a physical piece of paper or you open a digital screen, and the almanac would have to know how far away the horizon is that you're looking at, and then to give you the correction that you need. Now,
But you
won't be a
don't
book
need.
after that. But that's the point.
Hold on, Arwin.
So
You can go.
Can I respond?
Hold on. You can go in a second. Brian, I know you still have one more point to conclude. I can sense it. But yeah, back to Ruhif when we were like, how's that geometric horizon working out for you? It's needed if you're going to do angle corrections and affirm that they're dip. Brian saying even if I give him the geometric horizon, it still isn't calculating for the simplicity of having a fixed position that you correct for when you rise in altitude. That's height of eye, as Adam beautifully disseminated. But at that point, and this is Brian's current point, it's where we would jokingly, I'm so glad you're doing this, Brian, we would jokingly say, what is it, no Atmo day? Because obviously, if they're going to claim that we've always got, in effect, 7/6 refraction, which requires R to be measured at the geometric tangent point horizon, that's the Arwinian paradox, which I'm sure is where Arwin will step in a minute after Brian's concluded. But that's why we would say, well, what is it, no Atmo day? Because the horizon, in rebuttal to the Black Swan, moves with the weather. So if it's moving with the weather, the almanac can't know how to correct. But if you're just doing a simple height of eye correction and fixing the horizon as detailed by Adam, which is precisely what they do when you're correcting for dip, then it has nothing to do with 7/6R. It has nothing to do with refraction. It has nothing to do with the sphere Earth. And Brian can systematically take apart every single word of their convoluted nonsense that's getting more and more into the weeds when they try and incorporate globe Earth into a simple angle correction for height. Go ahead, Brian, then Arwin. I'm sure Arwin's itching to get the last word in. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I'll be quick, Arwin. I know I've been taking up a lot of time. Yeah, in reality, we only have to correct for the height of eye. And that means the correction is the same every single time. So if I'm on a boat and I'm on the same boat and I'm doing 300 sightings, for each 300, for every sighting, all 300 of them, the correction will be exactly the same. Their correction is connected to the distance to the horizon. So they don't know if when they're looking at a horizon from 20 foot up, if it's 7/6 or refracted, it's not refraction, but we'll just go within the paradigm. Or if it's 12/6 or 150/6 or 89/6 or they never know, because that's their claim, is that the horizon is a constantly refracted position that's constantly moving because it's constantly refracted. So you would have to know how far away the horizon is from you. The almanac would have to know. A piece of paper would have to be able to magically change the correction because it's sentient and knows how far away the horizon is.
Right.
It's complete and utter madness. Well, the horizon could be 100 miles away from us or 10 miles away from us or any amount of time or any distance at any time. It won't make any difference on a flat plane because you're not correcting for a distance to the horizon. You're only correcting for your height of what, which
Perfect.
is what dip correction is.
Perfect.
I'm finished. Thanks.
Perfect. Arwin, go ahead.
Okay, right. So look, the 7/6R formula that they use, it's more of an estimate, but the thing is, it should be like a primary. It should be like a seed to give you the result that would lead to you knowing or back calculating a supposed measured Earth curve, right? But they use it secondarily because they literally measure everything flat because it always works very directly. And then they apply 7/6R. They know how refracted it is based on how flat it looks. It's a very rough way of describing it. But like, oh, it's so far away. Well, then we know how much it is refracted from the geometric position where it should be on our ball. And so it's always a secondary procedure. They just use the flat Earth mechanics and then they apply the ball warping. And that's how they always do it.
Anybody know
But
how
they
long-
can't. That's what
I-
Brian's
'cause-
point
'cause-
is.
Go on, Adam. Go on.
Hopefully
I
that
think-
paradox prevents it.
Sorry, I run pushed the beginning of that. Arwinian paradox prevents it. Did you say carry on?
Yeah. Well, as Brian's describing it, you see, it's this paradox. You need to know how far away the horizon is to then apply 7/, or 10/6R based on the distance to the horizon. But as Brian started out with, how do you affirm that number when you're out at sea? So I'm lost at sea, and these angle changes are going to be enough to get me dead or alive. Well, I hit the rocks or I don't hit the rocks. There's enough variance. So you need something to calibrate the horizon. Yeah. If you're going to move forwards, and you calibrate from the horizon, assuming it's the same based on the height of eye. And if what they're invoking now is the horizon will move based on a rate of change of over 6R, then you need something to calibrate that first, which you do not have.
No, but they have the presupposition of what they know it mathematically has to be, and that's what they use. So they don't effectively know. They're just assuming it is that geometry, and that's how they apply the 7/6 or however it is in that moment to become that geometric horizon that you can't see.
No, you have to know the distance. If you don't know the distance to the horizon, you're screwed. You don't know whether it is 6/6, 7/6, 3060/6. You have to know the distance so that you can work out how much the sphere isn't bending or is bending today.
So what they measure, they don't measure the actual horizon. They measure the geometric horizon in the model and then apply that to the actual visual.
So how are you
Secondary.
going to apply it, Arwin? You know what the geometric is, supposedly. How far away from the geometric is that horizon today? How do you ascertain that?
You don't really ascertain it. You just kind of change the angles, right? Until you know, like, oh, this is how much it's deviating. And that can be pretty extreme, but it's really an estimation game because you can't really be exactly sure where the horizon is. So you're just estimating.
Here. Is this Arwin or Baldwin talking? Just so
I'm not like delivering details about actual debating argumentation. I'm just trying to display on how they figure it out in their head, which is not really, it will not be delivering actual argumentation proof or anything, but this is how they think about it. This is the procedure.
But you have to go back to Rihuf's claim. Sorry, Aaron, go on.
No, go on, Barry. Fine.
I'm just saying, what's Rihuf's claim is that this refraction calculation and over 6R refraction calculation is added into the dip. This is what he's claiming. There is a refraction calculation added in, but it's not over 6R. Because to add in over 6R, the almanac would have to know at that very moment that you're taking the sighting how much over 6R there is at that very time. So how is the almanac going to know how far away the horizon is from you when you're taking your sighting?
Well, just to be curious, are we talking about the horizons they believe exist below sea level?
That's the one.
Yes, that's exactly. That's the problem. See, all the horizons not only exist below sea level, but what Ruhif is claiming and what they're going around claiming, and I've corrected them on this. Right, I'm pretty sure I corrected Ruhif on this. That what you're claiming is not what's in the almanac, and I've proven it to a few of them when they actually listen to me. So, but it doesn't matter. The point is, they're claiming there is globe refraction calculations added to the almanac, right? Added to the dip correction in the almanac. That would mean for me to know if I'm on a globe how far away the almanac has to know how far away the horizon is. So I am 20 foot above the water, right? And right now the horizon could be 15 miles away from me, right? But in an hour's time, the horizon could be 20 miles away from me. And how is the almanac? And I am the same height of eye above the water. So how is the almanac going to change? How is that ink in the paper going to change because it's somehow sentient and knows the distance to the horizon? How's it going to do that? Because that's what Ruhif is claiming. Because that's what you can give them their geometric horizon at that point because it's all going to fail. Right there, it'll fail right there. Over.
Right, Nathan, you want me to continue reading the comment, or was that it?
It's up to you. I was just about to either round out, or we can go through Ruhif's comment. You guys can decide.
Okay, I'll go.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. So number 3, because it's a pretty long list, I think in total. Right, number 3. If it was a right-angle triangle, then the relationship between distance and elevation angle would be a trig function, not a linear relationship. 16 nm per degree. I don't know what that means. Anyway, 4, you guys are still on the curve baseline argument.
60 nautical miles per degree.
Oh, right. Right, nautical miles. Okay. You guys are still on the curve baseline argument. What?
If it was a right angle triangle, then the relationship between the distance and the evaluation. No, it's celestial navigation. Understand what's going on. Stop trying to force in your very primitive understanding of triangles so that you can pretend you claim to know how it's done. This is celestial navigation.
Yep. Okay, so number 4, you guys are still on the curve baseline argument. I'm sure you've been told this 1,000 times, but apparently I need to say it again. The surface of Earth is not reference for an elevation angle. The reference for an elevation angle is eye level or horizontal, which is simple perpendicular to plumb line, no matter the shape of Earth. This is reference to which a sextant measurement is corrected to. And the amount of the correction is predicted on Earth being a globe and as above has refraction incorporated. Right.
Did he invoke eye level? I heard. Yep. Yeah, he's done at that point because eye level has to be parallel to surface level.
He's still not comprehending celestial navigation. They keep trying to focus on trying to create a tangent they can strap the right angle triangle to it, all the time ignoring the reason for the flat baseline isn't just for your first triangle, it's for your return journey at 90 degrees. Yeah, it includes the return journey, which has to be flat to measure your circular equal altitude. They really don't want to do the full process because it stops their criticism. They try to build a triangle, which I suppose geometrically you can do with a tangent, but then it prevents you from the further assumptions of how to do celestial navigation. And you deny the return straight line adjacent. You deny its existence. And therefore you couldn't stop yourself.
But at that point that you create the triangle, it is only that triangle for you at that position. You can't put it in an orthographic view and falsify it with a different triangle. You see what I'm saying? It is only in that position at that time that triangle would be formed. And that's still a red herring to the point that the angle is what we're talking about, not three angles. We're just talking about one angle being two straight lines meeting at a vertex. So,
right, but in
it's
orthographic,
worse than
you
that.
can use curved triangles, of course.
It's worse than that. I couldn't come in a minute ago. It's probably good I didn't. It's worse than that. See this tangent that Ruth is talking about making, right? How long is that tangent going to be? Where is that going to extend to? From underneath the observer, right? That's going to extend to what? To the zenith of from the GP point of the celestial body. And the angle line is going to extend to what? To the celestial body. So what do they end up with? A right angle triangle. They don't even realize that they're also claiming a right angle triangle. I've tried to say this to them in the past as well. Right? And what are they going to do with this horizontal distance that they're measuring? Do you know what I mean? What he's basically saying is, after I stop being crazy and use a crazy, tactic, I'm then going to use the right angle triangle that I said is not used, and I'm going to measure a horizontal distance that I said doesn't exist. Because how is he going to have a 90-degree angle at the observer and a 90-degree angle at the GP point on a sphere? Can't. He's going to have to create a right angle triangle because he's using a horizontal.
yeah, but then that's just ignoring that you can't get an angle from a curved baseline and just whistling past that to argue about the functions of triangles when that's a red herring to begin with.
Yeah, but he's going to be using a triangle himself because he just stated that it will be a horizontal from the eye line.
Well, yeah, I mean,
or a tangent plane, one or the other.
If I was in his position, I would want to argue about which triangle we're going to use instead of how do we get an angle to begin with to build this triangle.
See, they think, he thinks that he can bang together some kind of an angle, right, without stating how far this horizontal he's after making is going to stretch. Right? How far will that stretch? Because what he wants to do is just use that horizontal to get the initial angle and then move it down to a second horizontal in the middle of his globe. Well, none of them would be horizontal on the globe. There's no horizontal on a globe. But that's what in his mind, that's what he thinks he's doing. Well, really, horizontal can't exist on the globe. But because you never know what it is, so there's no reference point. But the point is that that's what he wants to do. So how long is this? But to make the actual measurement in the first place, that horizontal that he's going to create, right, as a tangent plane or as eye level, is going to have to stretch that distance. That's the point. It's after they've done the measurement, they bring it to the center of their globe. What?
Yeah, but whether he's stretching the distance or whatever he's doing, he's still using a level that is parallel to surface level. So no matter what he does, he'll still be doing that using a plane.
No, not within his paradigm. Within his paradigm, the dip correction is a correction up from a geometric horizon. Now, he's trying to say that there's a refracted horizon. Doesn't matter. The point is, it's a correction for below surface level.
They think
brings up the eye line.
In his paradigm, and he will tell you that there is a point of tangency where eye level and surface level meet.
Yeah, they're parallel. The tangent plane and eye level is parallel.
No. At the point where you go all the way to the ground with eye level, and it's it's at your surface level, they'll say that is a point of tangency. How do you invoke a point of tangency when you're just using two straight lines?
Well, eye level can't be tangent plane. A tangent plane touches a circle at one point. Tangent has to touch the circle. Eye level is not touching the surface. So that's completely geometrically wrong anyway.
Right. If you take your eye level all the way down and you dig a hole and you get it to where the edge of the hole in the middle of your eye is lined up, and that is your horizon. That's where surface level and eye level meet. How do you get a point of tangency from those two straight lines.
See, this is the thing. Their tangency comes from where exactly the point they are on their globe. If you look at their dip, Matthew Weather's dip correction, right, which would involve his geometric horizon, there's no over 6R for his dip correction nonsense. But the point is that they're doing a dip that comes up and past the tangent. This is why why I've made so many videos on dip correction is that the dip correction doesn't reference anything below horizontal. There is no underneath horizontal reference. Whereas what they're claiming is a line that comes up from the eye, that comes up from the horizon, past horizontal, and to the eye line. This is what they're trying to claim, as opposed to from the horizontal up to the eye line, or the vertex at the eye line down to the horizontal. This is their crazy world. Whereas that's not dip correction. It doesn't reference anything below horizontal. It can't.
Right.
The whole point is to create horizontal.
But what I'm saying is the founding premise that this is built on is that when eye level and surface level overlap, you have a point of tangency. That's what everything that they do with that calculator is built on that. But that's two flat planes. That's not a point of tangency.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I'm just talking about what they're doing with their dip correction. And what they're doing is they're creating a tangent. Like what real life is claiming is there's a magical tangent being created directly below the navigator on the water. Right? And there's a dip correction, which would mean that tangent plane has to be at a different degree because that's supposed to be a horizontal. So it's just a straight line, let's just call it, because it can't be horizontal on the globe. But it's a straight line, right, from underneath the boat where that has an horizon below it. This is what they think is happening. They think the horizon they're looking at is below a horizontal from underneath the boat. This is what they think.
Then they're contradicting what the meaning of horizon is at that point.
Yeah, it's complete nonsense. It's totally wrong. That's the point of the dip correction. The dip correction corrects for height of eye only. So it can't correct down to the water underneath the boat or correct up from a globe's geometric or refracted horizon because the correction won't work then. You won't get a 90 from that.
And with that, I'm going to say, first and foremost, if you're watching on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on an after show, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!